Dale, thank you so much for that warm introduction. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. I'm your host, Tiffany Henry, and I am a Navy veteran and the Sales Go-to-Market Director at Palo Alto Network. This morning, I'm joined with my friends, Shane Murray and Ray Charfauros. I am thrilled that we'll be able to have the opportunity to share our experiences with you this morning regarding our transitions from the military into the civilian sector. We'll share the good, we'll share some of the challenges that we've endured, and we'll also, I think more importantly, be able to share some of the best practices that we've gathered throughout our transitions. So with that, I'd love to turn it over for a brief introduction. Ray, do you mind starting?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm Ray Charfauros. I spent about 7 years in the Marine Corps, and I currently work at the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office.
Awesome. Shane, how about yourself?
Sure. My name is Shane Murray. I'm 22-year veteran out of the Marine Corps, and I currently run the program known as Onward to Oppertunity that falls under the IVMF at Syracuse University.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. So as we know, throughout each journey that we have as we're transitioning out of the military, there's a lot of commonalities that happen, but there's certainly some unique aspects, right, to each transition that occurs for service members in regards to transitioning into a job right off the bat, or maybe exploring some educational options and everything in between. I would love to hear from you all around your transition from the point that you realized you were going to make the transition out of the military into, I would say, your first stable role. So, Ray, would you like to kick us off with that discussion?
Definitely. So, like you said, first stable role. At my point during the Marine Corps, again, I spent 7 years in. And after my second tour in Afghanistan, I had started having back issues. And a lot of us can attest to those back issues. Being in the infantry, artillery, it was, honestly, it was difficult because I planned to make the Marine Corps my life and service. And I had a great time. I spent 2 years in D.C. and 5 years down Lejeune. At that point in time, the Marine Corps said pretty much, hey, you can't operate anymore, and you're going to have to find a different lifestyle, whether it be lateral movement to a different job or a different MOS, or getting out and going to college was my thought process. So I was like, man, well, if I can't operate anymore, then I'm just going to go ahead and get out and go to college and see what the civilian life was about. And again, those struggles during that time frame, it was vast. You're trying to find a new identity. You're trying to find who you are, not just a Marine or soldier, airman, or Navy personnel. So you're trying to figure out who you are, and that was the biggest issue and struggle getting out. So I decided to go to college. I went to Cape Fear Community College and then on to UNCW to get my psychology degree, which kind of catapulted me into my first stable job, really, where I worked at the Pender County Veterans Office, where I help veterans like myself get out and help them transition into their new adventures, whether it be education or doing VA claims. And so that was my first stable job during that time frame. And then I was able to move on to becoming the director of veterans at the local community college at Cape Fear Community College, where I spent close to about 3 years there, had an amazing time. But again, you are doing this introspection and finding out who you are really, and you're trying to find out how you can use your military skills to transition into your new career. Well, I found it difficult sitting behind a desk, and that was the better part of me, of the infantry life, that was a struggle, because I couldn't sit behind that desk any longer. So I was like, oh man, there's this position that opened up for Concerned Veterans for America, basically going up on the political level and being able to move out into working with community and trying to build community up, kind of like what we're doing now, but more so on the policy side, on national policy. So we're trying to promote this policies, initiatives that are coming from top down into our communities. And it was fun. It was fun for a while, but still, again, something nagging inside of me, like Doc Adams said, you know, you have these, well, I don't call them regrets, but I call them, you know, basically adversity points where you're trying to really figure out what you want to do. So again, I guess the moral of the story is it doesn't matter how many setbacks or fallbacks that you think you might have, but they're really catapulting you into your next position. So after spending about 6 months in the political arena, again, my heart was telling me, man, you want to be back in uniform and you want to serve the community. So that's why I joined the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office and be able to serve our community in that facet. So that's a little bit about how I found my first stable position.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for sharing your story, right? I think it's just so important that we all keep perspective of truly understanding what makes us fulfilled, right? That gut feeling that we have and being able to follow through with it is just so important as you're making that transition. So Shane, how about you? Would you like to speak a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely. I had my experience was much like Ray's, with some compounding issues as well. I was injured in 2006 and carried some injuries and some issues and all the way through my retirement and after 22 years. I want to go back to the term stable as far as that first stable job or that stable career. For me, I found it. My first stable career or job was in commercial tire sales here in Wilmington, and it was a great job. I was a store manager, doing well. The pay was exceptional. I was doing very well. The problem was that I was not ready for that job. I had not yet come to admit that I needed some help and some issues and some injuries that were holding over, and to get treatment for those injuries before I could even think about being stable in a job. I stayed in it. I dug through, as we in the Marine Corps do, and pushed through while I was getting treatment as well. But on top of that, I had lost my purpose, as many of the veterans are going to find. You know, when whether you're in for 4 years or 40 years, when you get out of the military, you may have a tendency to lose that purpose. My purpose was found again once I was blessed with the opportunity to come into the job that I'm in. And it's a training and employment program for veterans and military spouses. And again, my purpose, which I knew all along but had lost for a brief time, was in serving and serving our population, our military veteran population. I didn't know that's what I wanted to do until I did it. And you know, would never go back. I took a tremendous cut in pay from that first job I had to the job that I'm in now, but I would do it again tomorrow because for my family's stability, for mine and overall happiness and fulfillment, as you put it, Tiffany, fulfillment in a career, I'd do it again tomorrow. Money does not make you happy. Find that balance between time and money. You know, you got to temper that with keeping the lights on and food on the table, but find that job that you're naturally inclined to do, and that'll make you happy. If you can find a job that you're going to work 4 days a week with a smile on your face, you made it. You absolutely made it. If you can't find it right off the bat, keep the lights on, find a job that you need to do, but don't stop looking for that next career that's going to make you fulfilled and find your purpose and your passion in your work.
Such powerful words stated there. You know, thank you for sharing that. And I talk about, or as we talk about stability, right, in finding a stable job, it's not just that the role that we're taking on, it's stability within our home, it's stability, you know, with our partners in life, it's stability with our children, it's that mental and physical stability that we need as well as we're making this transition that's so important. And I think veterans and those family members who help those who serve are just so used to serving others before themselves at times that part gets put on the back burner. So I just think it's so important to, one, have that discussion And to two, make sure that it's being addressed and really being on the forefront of your mind as you're making these transitions is just so important. So thank you, gentlemen, for sharing that with us. So as we're looking, right, as you started to look for that first stable role, I would say there's a lot that goes into that search just to begin with, right? You're looking at different opportunities, you're looking at different, prospective employers, and looking at how do I translate what I did into the military into the work that I'm going to do outside of the service. And I know personally, I went through at least 50 or 7 different versions of my resume, depending on what job I was applying for at the time. But once I actually landed that job, or even that first discussion with a potential employer, one of the things that stood out to me was always around, not only the hard skills, but the soft skills that we have as veterans that stand out to employers. So when you think about resourcefulness, and you think about grit, and you think about leadership, those are, I would say, some important aspects that I saw employers seeking. And then on the other side, there would sometimes be a question around education and that part of development that they would look at as well. So I would like to ask Ray, from your aspect, did education play a part or influence the way that you managed your transition?
Definitely. In corporate America, it's kind of a standard to have an education for yourself while getting out. And education is really not that difficult when you're getting out of the Marine Corps or the Army. We're always constantly going through courses. We're always constantly going through schools, like Shane can attest to. So really, you're just making transition from military education to civilian education, and being able to use those hard skills and soft skills to catapult you or prosper you into that career you want. So for me personally, I chose the degree of psychology, and I think it was subconscious too, because during that process, and maybe Shane can attest to this, those who are combat vets or been in the country, coming back from that area, you have residual traumas that you may have seen or been involved with. So for me, I think I was really trying to heal myself while getting out during that time frame. There was a little bit of the adversity points there. It took a period of like 3 years, so while I'm in my degree and being able to heal myself unknowingly, it was that degree that helped me get into that stable position, ultimately Director of Veterans Affairs at the college. But during the hiring process, the talking that we're conducting right now is a lot different in the beginning whenever I was training myself to talk like a civilian again. Being able to use hand gestures, being able to smile, being able to talk to other people without, being stiff and like with your coat on and your tie on, just choking you, because that's the way the Marine Corps taught you to tie your ties, choke yourself. But in reality, it's just we're trying to be relaxed. We're trying to use our soft skills, win the hearts and minds, really, of the panel in front of you. But yes, to go back to the main point, having a degree, not only is it substantial for your own benefit, but you gain a lot of aspects, a lot of information that you may have not known because you're in the military for the many years. Now you're learning about the world around you. There's a variety of classes that you would take that might be interesting or might not be interesting. But the main thing is you're learning a variety in order for you to get out there in the civilian world and create your OSMEAC plan and be able to earn that position that you want. And again, you might be multiple positions that you try and maybe it's not for you, and you fall back and you reassess your plan and you go forward and find that position you want.
Thank you for sharing that. No, I know that it's so challenging, I think, sometimes at the beginning to adjust, right, into
Definitely.
being comfortable in this new role that we almost like not a role that we're playing at that moment, but a role that you're even just trying to figure out how you become comfortable in these new environments, and that just takes time to get adjusted. So it's important to know it's a journey, right? It's a part of the journey in finding sort of the new you as you're making this transition. And as we're going through this, hindsight is always 2020, right? I think about some of the initial conversations I had with employers, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why did I say that? Or, or I most certainly should have used a different word or a different story to explain that experience that may have been a little bit more relatable. So we kind of beat ourselves up in that regard. So is there anything that happened throughout your transition where you looked back and you said, gosh, I wish I would have done this differently?
Absolutely. I will be the first to tell you, you can absolutely put a square peg in a round hole if you have the right hammer. I don't recommend it. It is definitely, don't force things. Don't take a position because you think that you have to or that you need to. There's a lot out there if you just look. And these soft skills that you were talking about and education are key. But absolutely do not undermine your experience. In the military, we do things that are outside of our training, outside of our comfort zone, if you will, on a daily basis. And we do it so much that it's common to us. So we don't translate that well into our resume as far as experiences. For myself, I did that. I had a hard time translating that agility and adaptability into something that would be an asset to the companies that I was applying for. And over time, you fail enough times, you're going to figure it out and do the right things. Let me tell you, I was the poster boy for everything wrong that you could do that I now teach, because I did it all wrong. And luckily I landed in a good place thanks to a great network that was mutually beneficial, that we look out for each other. If you have family close, if you don't have family, we make family in the military. So use that network. I could have used it better myself, and it probably would have saved a little bit of stress and heartache.
Yeah. No, that's an amazing point right there around having a network, and having mentors along the way is so important. So Ray, as you were making your transition, how would you describe sort of your support system and the network that you had to help make that transition for yourself?
Yeah, so my first support system was my then wife. So I was married at the time during my transition, and it's I'm gonna be transparent with you all. I was going through a lot due to the effects of war, and it's okay. It's okay to go through those things, but it's also just be cognizant of letting your spouse know what's going on, right? At that time, she was my support system, and she was a wonderful woman. She was there for me while I was getting out of the Marine Corps, and during that process, I was still trying to find out who I was, and that's okay. And every one of us, whether you're watching, even Shane probably can attest to a lot of this, it's difficult to kind of explain to your significant other, like, hey, I'm going through a hard time, today's not good. But over time, I believe I pushed my wife away, which resulted in a divorce. And it's good to learn from that. Again, failure. Failure is first attempt in learning. We adapt, we overcome. But again, seeking that help, again, from the VA, that's afforded to us. That's a big resource, really. So again, I got myself into counseling, started working through all those, cracks and crinks or whatever you want to call them. And now, looking back, hindsight 2020, I wish I'd have known a little more about that and how the VA helps. But again, using your resources, your mentors, like you mentioned. I had a great mentor, Bob Philippot. Everyone knows him down in Wilmington. Such a wonderful guy. Still today, he is my mentor. So using your resources that you do have right? Or seeking those resources. And then having a mentor is key, is so key. But again, we all have our setbacks, but it's about how you hold on to what you do have and then move forward into the future, making yourself prosper.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Shane, how about yourself?
Yeah, just feeding right off of what Ray was saying, as far as getting using those resources that are available with the VA. One thing I did learn is what worked great for me is I took my wife to every one of my appointments, because the things that I ignore as and just assume as, okay, that's the level that I'm at now as far as pain and discomfort, she has to live with. So she was the one that actually told the truth to the doctors that I was talking to, because I would, it was beat into our heads that you don't talk about your injuries, you just press forward, and I was still in that mindset. She identified those things. She talked to the doctor about what my ailments were, what my issues were, and whether I liked it or not. But she was that network and that strength for me in transition that kept me driving, especially with frustration and dealing with the VA and other organizations like that. At times I wanted to throw my hands up and say, forget it, it's not worth it to me. But she wouldn't let me do that. So that network for me is my wife. Her family's in California, mine's in Texas. So here in North Carolina, we've got each other in the military family that we've met and made here in North Carolina to get us through. As far as mentors go, some good friends that acted as reference for me to get into positions that I'm in. We're awesome. Mentors don't have to be somebody with a gray beard. It doesn't have to be somebody older than you. It just has to be somebody that's already walked the path that you want to walk. They've identified the holes and they can help you along. And it's always good to find somebody with that common drive and common purpose that you can just talk to and work things out and bounce ideas off of them and know that you're going to get that honest response. That's a mentor. So yeah, they're key.
Agreed. So time flies when you're having fun. So I'm going to ask each of you, in under 30 seconds, share with me your top piece of advice for those who are watching this today around transitioning into the civilian sector. Ray, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so big piece of advice we learned in the military, use the backwards plan. Figure out what your goal is that you want in life and go ahead and create that backwards plan leading to where you're at now, and have that introspection to know where you're at and move forward to get that goal, because anything you want in life you can achieve. And there's many positions I've been in that I wanted and I've earned it, and it's using that backwards plan.
Awesome. Shane.
Absolutely. And identify those goals, identify where you want to be, and there's no single path to get to those goals. Whatever path works best for you and in your situation is the path you should take. Also, as far as planning, research, I mean, in the military, at one point or another, we become detailed planners because we plan operations, we rehearse, and it's to detail. This should be planned even more so because it's your life. It's your transition. It's not an operation into the field. It's your transition. So put that effort into it. If you have the time, year out, set aside an hour a day and research. Find out where you're going to land before you jump.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Shane, for your transparency and the wealth of knowledge that you shared with us this morning. Thank you to NC Stride, the Governor's Working Group, Wayne Tech University, and all for having us. We appreciate it.